Hi, I'm Nemesis Bloodreich, and also extremely stupid because I made this video. Today I'm going to be coming up with a 16 episode long season list for Marvel Comics Death Battles, where the opponent has to be someone that isn't DC. And this time I don't even have to fudge the line of what counts as a DC imprint and what doesn't. It wasn't easy, because honestly, I don't like most Marvel or DC matchups in general, which should not be surprising. Let alone surprising, I struggle to find 16 matchups for a singular franchise that I like. I struggle with that even with franchises I fucking love, like Godzilla and Transformers. So, it is, I guess, a testament to Marvel's variety that I've managed to work this. Also, I thank the entire server that I was on when I was making this list for helping me out. You guys know who you are. But here it is, as best I can sort of present it. Fuck it, let's just go. For my premiere, I've chosen Captain America vs. Kamen Rider Ichigo. Or, I'd usually just call the character Kamen Rider, like Kamen Rider 1, but I guess people more know him with this name. I don't really know what to say beyond this. Does sort of feel like just a fitting premiere choice in general. It's two kind of Nazi fighting superheroes who represent America and Japan, and there's probably more to it that I don't care about. I think it's cool, just in general. It gets in a new franchise like Kamen Rider with one of its most iconic heroes, and probably the Marvel character most deserving of a return due to how dirty he got done. You'd probably be able to comfortably make this a simple martial arts fight with a fun vibe, uses of the environment, you'd have a motorcycle fight maybe, just one of those fights which emphasizes how you don't need a ton of crazy powers and shit going on to make it a fun watch. You could also maybe do it in live action, but I think that's asking a little bit much. Lizard vs. Killer Croc is trash. Lizard vs. Man-Bat is not. But Lizard vs. Leatherhead from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is my preferred for the Lizard. Weird how I could bring up all these matchups for a character that I'm not even that crazy about. It's the Lizard. But this is the one for me. Due to how different Leatherheads can be between incarnations, I'm sure there are a ton of people who just think the theme is that they're reptile individuals. But using the original and more importantly the 2003 version, which is my favorite by a wide margin, the theme is more interestingly brilliantly intelligent scientists who due to a serum were mutated into being reptile humans who, despite generally being portrayed as good people at heart, are prone to bouts of extreme violence and viciousness because they're also reptile people. And I like that theme a lot more than Lizard vs. Crocs, which is they look like reptiles. Croc is just a guy with a skin condition. And Lizard vs. Man-Bat is just less interesting because I don't give a shit about Man-Bat beyond he looks cool. I also think it'd be really interesting to have a good maybe third or even maybe just a quarter of the fight be the two simply as friends working on some experiments. See, this is a situation where not having the fight announcement actually can help, because you can have the start be an extended bit of the two just interacting. Leatherhead and a human Kurt Connors testing experiments. They're technically fighting, that they are shooting things at each other's direction, but the context is that they're shooting at targets the other is putting up so they can test some weapons. Let's say they're making weapons that are designed to be non-lethal, and they're working together to make sure of that before they start discussing their whole reptile deal and stuff like that. However, before they even get to do that, there comes a point where one of them accidentally knocks something over, which triggers Kurt to turn into the Lizard and attack Leatherhead in a blind rage. Leatherhead initially starts this portion of the fight not really wanting to hurt Kurt. He's putting him into headlocks, he's putting him in grapple holds, whatever it takes to subdue him without hurting him much. But after this comes a point where he finally does get that hold. He stops Lizard from being able to move, but Lizard does that shit where he triggers the reptile part of someone's brain to make them act only on instinct. Lizard gets out of the hold, he starts talking, yeah, he's so fucking good. What the fuck is Leatherhead gonna do when he's only got the base instincts? He goes for a big final kill attack, but in trying to bite Leatherhead, he gets stopped by Leatherhead unflinchingly blocking the bite with just his forearm. We get a shot of Lizard in surprise before a hand-drawn bit showing Leatherhead's eyes turning into the feral crocodilian slits as he gives into his primal rage, showing us openly how little he feels Lizard's jaws biting deep into his arm as he goes to fight back. The final portion of the battle would be the two reduced to feral reptile monsters hacking each other up like Sable vs. John's ending, playing into the extremely violent origins of the Ninja Turtle comics for the final portion, as they're brutally ripping each other to shreds until only one is left standing, which would probably be Lizard, which does make me a bit sad, but what can you do? Lizard is still cool, at least when he's not in live action. There's something I really like about the idea of a fight that progresses from two brilliant and intelligent scientists into two mindless feral monsters. Maybe have a raw moment where Leatherhead gives in, where he picks Lizard up and powerbombs him through the ground of the facility they're in and takes this fight into the sewers where the battle's final portion takes place. You can play into Lizard being able to use stealth, but Leatherhead being still able to keep up, or have Leatherhead drag Lizard into the sewer water where he has the advantage, but Lizard can still fight back anyway. You know, bits where they take advantage of the environment to one-up one another as best as they can. I just think everything works so well, much better than Lizard vs. Killer Croc, and probably even a bit better than Lizard vs. Man-Bat. Yeah, I recognize Lizard vs. Man-Bat's cool, but Lizard vs. Leatherhead firmly cements itself as probably my second favorite Ninja Turtles matchup, and Ninja Turtles matters a lot to me. And this actually plays into the scientist part of Lizard. This plays into Kurt Connors as well as the Lizard in a single fight. Which Man-Bat I don't think does. I mean, maybe it does, but I don't care. Man-Bat can fight fucking Morbius. Why? Yeah, I think that's his name. And hey, it avoids the Ninja Turtles compositing problem, because it'd basically be forced to focus on the 2003 series, which is awesome, and that's the series I love the most and got attached to. Episode 3. This is one of those matches I don't have much to say on, but I do like it. Nick Fury vs. Big Boss. The theme here is of legendary old farts who are commanders of massive battle platforms manned by their own private military armies. Some of you are probably wondering why Nick Fury is not Samuel L. Jackson. The rest are wondering why I chose Nick Fury Sr. Well, I was just told that it works better with him than the other one that's more recognizable, but apparently either works, so if you want you can sub him out for whatever Nick Fury you prefer. Personally, I'm neutral on either in terms of who's better, but I do think Nick Fury Sr. would be cooler to see as he's just less talked about. I'm fairly neutral on this matchup in general, but it does have a few things that sway me to including it. I like Nick Fury as he offers a more grounded character as opposed to most Marvel ones, and I like Big Boss from what minimal I know of him. Metal Gear also has a really good track record in Death Battle, one of, if not just outright the best in the series, and I think they can translate that to this too, which would make it fucking awesome. We had a fight that tapped into the silliness of Revengeance, a fight that tapped into the stealth elements, and this would be the third fight and would focus on the raw martial arts and gunfighting. I think it works and sounds pretty cool, and I'm not even sure what style I'd want it in now I think about it. Sprites sound like they'd be cool with a 3D background. Either 3D stuff feels like it'd be more cohesive with the other two Metal Gear episodes and sounds like it has some really cool shots in it. Maybe not Blender though, because I don't really want to see martial arts in Blender again. And live action I feel would also work really well with these more grounded characters, especially as this Nick Fury Sr., and so as a live action Fury that I wouldn't immediately point out is not actually Samuel L. Jackson. So yeah, I think it'd be cool, and Metal Gear coming back would be awesome. Should totally get King Bradley vs. Solid Snake first though. Episode 4. This episode sort of matches that one just then, but also is its antithesis. It probably should be further down than where I put it, but I'm too lazy to shift things around now. It's Red Skull vs. Cobra Commander. So obviously the thing here is that they're commanders of similar Nazi-esque terrorist groups. I say Nazi-esque as if Hydra isn't just Nazis, and that's really all you need to know. I'm not looking for any better theme here, I like it as it is. This is one of those, holy fuck, that vibe's so good matchups to me. I love the idea of that sort of goofy, classic Red Skull against original cartoon Cobra Commander at the start, but when the fight goes on, they transition to getting more serious and more cunning, mixing both that goofy and serious versions to demonstrate how the battle is getting more difficult as it goes on. The fight would primarily be less Red Skull and Cobra Commander throwing hands, and more them commanding Hydra and Cobra respectively. You would call it Red Skull vs. Cobra Commander, but at its heart it would be Hydra vs. Cobra, using all of their silly vehicles, weapons, and soldiers they've had over the years to battle it out, with the two eventually leading the charge themselves at the end. That's the climax, is them actually fighting. I wouldn't be surprised if they both have some sort of battle mech they could use to enter the battlefield, until it's destroyed and leaves them having to slug it one-on-one, picking up weapons of nearby fallen soldiers, manning whatever's functional of the wreckage close by. Before they die, one of them will die. This is absolutely one of those matchups where it either vies for you or it doesn't, and that's fine either way. To me though, this is the perfect matchup for Cobra Commander. He's one of the big four cartoon villains that I give a shit about to me, at least of that era, along with Megatron, Skeletor, and Shredder. And I'd love to see what's essentially a rundown of the entirety of Cobra across the long history of G.I. Joe. Itself a criminally under-researched series I think has a lot of surprises nobody would expect in store. Hell, the possibility of some crazy hacks technology from Cobra, or some Heraldtian nonsense from Hydra that nobody knows about, is high enough that I don't even know who would win until the episode drops, and that's a big plus to me. Unless they give Red Skull a cosmic cube or some shit. Also, I love the idea of the battle involving a moment where Red Skull cries "Hail Hydra" and Cobra Commander shrieks "Cobra" at the same time. That just sounds fun. Episode 5 is not a matchup that personally I have a lot of investment in, but I am including it for the sake of a friend who's not doing so well, as it's a matchup that matters a lot to him, and if he happens to be watching, might make him happy to see it. I don't know. Spider-Man vs. Ladybug from Miraculous. Now, from what I know, the theme is they're insect-themed superheroes, and they're red. It's something like that. Look, I don't know enough to comment on how good the theme is, or how good the animation potential is, or how good the debate is, because nobody will understand it if I made a joke about umbrellas. I can comment on the fact that it has a really good Brandon Yates track that I like a lot, but as it is, I don't know what much to put here, except, yeah. Episode 6. So I mentioned that Juggernaut vs. Shaggy Man was not my go-to for him back in that first video. That's because Juggernaut vs. Overlord is my way to go for him. I fucking love this matchup, man. I am a sucker for a good, moderately obscure Japanese Transformers character. Starsaber, Deathsaurus, Diatlas, Raiden, and of course, Overlord himself. And this just works so well for Jugs. Thematically, it's not crazy, but it does work on the whole unstoppable force angle and being obsessed with killing this one cunt motivated by an insane inferiority complex, but it's everything else that fits in so well for me. For one thing, apparently Juggernaut got over that, while Overlord was so obsessed that it crushed him when he couldn't get what he wanted, so that makes for a good dynamic you can have. Overlord sort of represents thematically what Juggernaut once was and what he could have been, but also there's so much potential for one unbelievably raw battle here. These two are so dedicated to not staying dead that they have continued to fight and battle after being reduced to skeletons. Yes, Overlord has a skeleton, Cybertronians are biomechanical, they're not just robots. Which I say knowing the original version of Overlord was just a big mecha piloted by two humans, but this is primarily IDW Overlord, in case anyone is wondering which version this would focus on. And I think you could have a battle that just plays really well on the Juggernaut's entire thing better than others. Shaggy Man and Doomsday both offer something similar, but I'm not really looking to them for a fucking Juggernaut fight as an actual episode. Doomsday has other matches I prefer, and Shaggy Man has Blastar for a Marvel opponent, who I probably should have used for the Marvel vs. DC season. Overlord has nothing else though, and is absolutely goated, so I'd fucking love to see him battling Juggernaut. Cunt is so unstoppable, he was only beaten by yonking half of his vehicle mode into the past and the other half into the future. Oh yeah, by the way, Overlord turns into both a tank and a jet that combine into one when it becomes a robot. That is awesome. He is a duocon. I don't think he's ever referred to as a duocon. Is he? I don't know if he's ever referred to as a duocon, but he really is. Anyway, most of you don't know what that even is, so hey! I just want to see stuff like Overlord getting rammed through an entire complex, Juggernaut charging straight through a hail of gunfire from Overlord's two vehicle modes, a bit where Overlord uses nothing but his bare hands to stop Juggernaut's charge, just raw power, just stops it dead on, causing a shockwave that obliterates the surrounding area behind him. Have Overlord with his big shit-eating grin, he says something akin to like, I don't know, let's see if you whimper the same in death. I want to see the two just having an all-out slug, and no, I don't think the size issue here matters as much as other Transformers matchups. Overlord generally fights characters who are significantly smaller than him, and Juggernaut has taken on big foes before. I also think it'd be cool how the battle either ends with Overlord having to live with the fact that the fear of God was put into him by a human, or it ends with Juggernaut overcoming what is basically a reflection of what he once was to win. You know, endings that fit the fact that one was able to overcome his obsession but one couldn't. Either Overlord is horrified at how a simple human was bringing him such fear and reduced his body to a state where he could never get his revenge, or Juggernaut is standing tall having symbolically overcome his past and what he once was. Everything works for this. I love this. Please do this death battle. Take Doomsday and shove him up your butthole. Episode 7. Now this is an interesting one. It manages to be technically my favorite Green Goblin matchup, while also not being the Green Goblin. Norman Osborn versus David Xanatos from Gargoyles. So off the bat, I have talked about this matchup before, and I am using someone else's thumbnail because there is no way in hell I'm doing anything but a downgrade so far from this that it sinks past the Marianas Trench and 69's the Earth's outer core. So go subscribe to Human because he's cool. Anyway, yeah, they're rich, and most importantly, badass suit of armor mirroring guy, assholes, companies. Wow, that was a terrible explanation of the theme. Regardless, yes, this would be a battle that focuses on Norman as a whole, not just the Green Goblin, and probably play mostly off the Iron Patriot armor against Xanatos' exoframes, which would be cool. As for including Goblin himself, I'm not sure, could you do that? Maybe. This is definitely one that's more focused on overall tech though, and Norman's Iron Patriot armor would be the main thing he's got. Maybe include some bits of Goblin tech though, it would depend a lot on whose company building the battle takes place in, I don't know, I like it. It'd be great to get a Marvel vs. Gargoyles episode that's not terrible. For mid-season finale, I sort of bounced around options, but just gave up and settled on Blade vs. Buffy. Not because of any particular reason, though. I mean, hey, a live-action mid-season finale sounds neat, right? I don't even know why this is my live-action choice. It just ended up being the live-action choice. So yeah, the theme is what you expect. They kill vampires. I'm not crazy about it, but here's the thing. Short of, I don't know, Spike versus Klaus Michelson, what Buffy matchups has anyone ever considered? Am I the one person who's watched all of Buffy and Angel in this community? Oh, right. No, that was cool. But anyway, I love the idea of us getting a Buffy episode, because Buffy's a good show, even if Angel was much, much better. I will fucking fight you. So yeah, this is neat. I'd like this for a live-action episode because I think it fits the two best, even if I'd have trouble accepting a Blade that's not Wesley Snipes and a Buffy that's not Sarah Michelle Gellar. I also like Blade due to how baller his two films are. Okay, I kind of like Blade Trinity, but that's for how bad it is most of the time, but that's more close to my Sharknado than anything else. So I was debating on what matchup I think would be best as a draw for people to come back after the mid-season break, the mid-season return, and I mean, It wasn't that difficult. Can I just say, right, it's Ghost Rider versus Spawn? I mean, what even do I have to say? It's Ghost Rider versus Spawn. It's one of the biggest Marvel vs. non-DC requests that exists, period. They're beloved, they're very similar, their general vibe and appearance make it so that I've seen this comparison made outside of Versus. I'm not even gonna fucking dwell on this one. I don't think it's necessary for how loved this matchup generally is amongst a lot of people. But also, is Ghost Rider really in needing of a comeback? I don't know. Spawn definitely deserves a run back though, my god. Episode 10. So, Transformers, right? I like it a lot, and this is a matchup I even brought up in a past video without actually realizing how well it does work. It's War Machine vs Ironhide. Especially with IDW in, G1 Ironhide actually works better for War Machine than the movie one I used does. They're the best friend and right-hand man war veteran to the protagonist hero, who go through arcs involving their PTSD from the toll of war while seeking to create and prolong peace after the fact. And also they have a billion built-in weapons that make them a walking arsenal of guns, missiles, lasers, and random shit like liquid nitrogen. Given I'm not too fond of War Machine's current episode, Don Cheadle is awesome, and some of my friends would swoon over more of him in Death Battle. Ironhide's a goated character, and War Machine probably has more weapons and functions to his suits that allow for an interesting and fun battle that's distinct from his fight with Genos. I'm totally down for him going back to fight Ironhide. And it's a case where I don't think the size issue matters again. They're both heavily ranged gunfighters, and also Battle in the Sun's Iron Man vs Optimus Prime exists. Ironhide is also one of those characters that I really struggle to see Death Battle fucking up, though Rooster Teeth did help with that Netflix trilogy where Ironhide had the most low-tier goon voice possible, so who knows. But I'm sure they'd know to give him that thick, badass accent and drawl he's known for. And yeah, what else can I say? Theme's strong. I think War Machine coming back would be fine because I like him a lot and I think you could cover his tech and story way better than Death Battle actually did. Ironhide is based and there would be another of my favorite characters I've ever used. Be a fun time hearing these war veterans bannering too. Episode 11. I'm adding this for the sake of the British monarchy. It's Haruka Haruhara versus Gwenpool. They pull shit out of thing. I don't actually know the theme, but some people like it, and I like Haruko a lot, so that's neat. I don't know what else to say. Fully Cooley is great. Episode 12. So this is the best possible place I could drop a potential Halloween episode, seeing as both Dio vs Alucard and Violent Underdog vs Crypto were both the 5th last episode of their respective seasons. It's of course Schumer Gorath vs Cthulhu. This is one of the most unusual matchups in that it's a Cthulhu matchup that doesn't just treat him like a big dumb monster. No, this matchup actually goes into the eldritch horror sides of both these characters that I find way more interesting than just quippy Marvel vs. Capcom Schumer, who's got nothing interesting going on, and giant monster Cthulhu, both of which I think would be extremely boring to focus on for a death battle, as there's no end of characters who could be either of those things and represent them way better. When it comes to cosmic horror though, I want to say these are some of the most popular characters that are known for cosmic horror, at least I like to think so, and given I do quite like these two for varying reasons, namely the astral horror elements, I'd love to see this done. I'm not entirely sure what you'd do. I'm not as knowledgeable on what they could bring for a fight outside of just hitting each other, which sounds really fucking lame. And I'd really want an abstract fight that's just super unusual and ethereal in feel, something that feels like you're only understanding a shadow of what's actually happening, because it's so grand in scale and nature that the human mind can't comprehend it. Something that feels so absurdly large it literally couldn't be represented in a way that falls under the category of sense. This matchup gives that. It sounds super unique. It's cool. I like it. Episode 13. So Transformers, right? It's not actually a part of this one, but it does have a relation. For this, I've chosen a Marvel character that I think is most well known for his appearance in the Marvel Transformers comics, because this is Death's Head vs. Dirge, yes? This just sounds so fucking fun to me. Death's Head's such a Chadley character and Dirge matches him in that. I love Dirge too. They're both like unstoppable space sci-fi bounty hunters. They have a similar vibe. And you know, Dirge isn't exactly filled to brim with good ideas, let me fucking tell you. I just love the idea of seeing these two fight though, man. It feels like it's got tons of potential for really cool animation that just... Oh, if the reason this is listed as hand-drawn is because I'd love to see this done in the style of animation of the old Clone Wars series. Oh, I'm repeating myself. I feel if I keep going, I'll just repeat myself. I just love how this matchup like sounds in my head, man. I really like it, you know? Episode 14. One cringe moment in Superhero Squad Show broke this for Biff, and he's a cringeite for it. Superhero Squad Show Doctor Doom vs. Chaos. They have a similar vibe, they have a ton of powers bounce off each other really well, they'd ban are super good, you can work in Glumshanks and Chaos' Darklanders against Abomination and MODOK, you can have a ton of great interactions, you can have a really fun vibe, and I think with the Blender team doing it, you can have some really expressive stuff on your hands, and Biff can shut up. Episode 15. Rounding it out, I thought I'd put in another really popular request I see a lot. It's Loki vs. Kefka. Like, what can I say? This feels like another one of those matchups where everything that could be talked about has been talked to death. I have nothing to add. I like it. Loki and Kefka are super popular, and it's a Final Fantasy that's not Final Fantasy VII. Do it. So, rounding out my list is not necessarily something happy or something I want or I enjoy talking about. The finale, Galactus versus Unicron. So, this, to me, is the second most important matchup, in general, to me. It's just above Eddie the Head vs. Evil Ernie and Destoroyah vs. Iris, and just below Godzilla vs. Gamera. It has a ton of potential. It could be extremely grand in scale, and it's something I've wanted for well over a decade to be represented in some media. Probably more than just a decade. And of course, what else could be the finale to this season's theme? Unfortunately, it does sadden me to bring up my own personal hang-ups with it. I've lost any will to want to see this in Death Battle. I just don't want to see it anymore, because I think the time has passed for me. This episode was announced like years ago, like over half a decade ago. So long it feels like just a distant memory when I first saw that announcement at MagFest 13. And having those keys dangled in front of my face for so long, it was just inevitable that my interest would only last so long. When Saitama vs. Popeye was revealed, when I first saw that reveal trailer, that was it for me. I was done. There is no way Galactus vs. Unicron can be done to a level of quality that I could appreciate. Because they've had that hype building up for me for way too long. I just don't feel any excitement towards it anymore. The greatest episode of Death Battle, on a technical level, would probably still disappoint me. And like, I feel like it's unfair. Like, that's unfair on like the people who will be working on it. That their hard work is basically predestined to disappoint me. I don't think they really care. Like, I don't think they care. Like, one person's disappointed. Ooh, whoop-de-doo. But 7 years of hype and waiting that I've gone through. There comes a point where no matter how hard you try to stoke a fire, it just can't be reignited. The day Death Battle does Galactus vs. Unicron will be one of the most bittersweet for me in this community. The equivalent of being given a gift from someone that you really like. No, okay, that's a really bad way to say it. Just a gift from someone that you care about, long after you wanted it. You're happy to see it arrive at all, but you don't really care anymore. It's not important. It leaves you kind of just cold and unfeeling, and you almost feel bad for the person who gave you the gift that you feel that way. And I feel weird talking about this, because I know there are people who are capable of keeping up 7+ years of hype in them. I know there are people who can do that, and I'm just not one of them. I don't want to feel this way, but I try to be true to how I feel in my videos, and how I feel is sad. I feel really sad that a matchup that holds this special a place in my heart I just don't want to see. When I think of Galactus vs. Unicron, I don't feel excitement, hype of what could be a great episode. I feel nothing. Like, I feel just no interest, nothing at all. It's not even like when I think about a matchup I actively dislike, like Frieza versus Megatron or something. No, it's just hollowness, nothing. There is no feeling there. For a time, my most wanted episode was Galactus vs. Unicron, but I pushed that aside because it was already confirmed. So, as such, my most wanted was Destoroyah vs. Iris. But now that asterisk of not counting Galactus vs. Unicron it doesn't exist anymore. My most wanted is firmly Destoroyah vs. Iris outright, followed by Eddie the Head vs. Evil Ernie, Undertaker vs. Crow, and Mash Kirielite vs. Fina, in no particular order amongst those three. Galactus vs. Unicron isn't even in the discussion for my most wanted anymore. It's in the discussion for my least wanted, because it's just a case where I'm gonna feel like I'm unfairly looking at the episode from like a pre-biased perspective, and there is like a difference between like a pre-biased want to enjoy something and a pre-biased want to not enjoy something. It's not that I won't want to feel Galactus vs. Unicron. It's just not that I won't want to like it when I first watch it. It'll just be a case of I won't care. Right? look, I don't want to end this on just a sad note, so I'll say that there are a lot of upsides. It does have a lot of potential. I think it can make for a great episode one day. It can have a great sense of scale, hopefully a great voice actor to emulate Orson Welles, hopefully an extended transformation sequence for Unicron. That is the best transformation sequence in the Transformers franchise, so I'd love to see just an extended transformation bit. You'd hopefully have a great track that works off the Unicron medley and its vibe, stuff like that. It could be great. I know it could, and that's why I chose it for the finale of this hypothetical Marvel vs. non-DC season. I guess there's no need to hide it. The next one of these style of video you'll see is DC vs. non-Marvel. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you look forward to that video. And I hope you have a good one, everyone.